The uncertain Last Quiet Day is a third-person narrative-driven adventure game whose gameplay contains similarities with some of Telltale's iconic titles. Here though, we see it from the perspective of RT, a simple scavenger robot living in a futuristic Earth void of humans, but instead occupied by other machines. The world of The Uncertain is a rather bleak one. Taking place in a post-apocalyptic vision of Earth, humanity has become extinct, and in its place, robots work and roam the planet, with their own society and way of life, so to speak. You play as RT, a lone scavenger who, at the beginning of the game, takes contracts from other groups of robots to keep itself productive. You're not given much insight into its day-to-day operations, however, as very quickly RT is thrown into an abnormal situation that completely transforms everything it thought it knew about the world. Teamed up with a group of fugitive machines in hiding, you must explore the ruins of Earth, searching for safety, but also, more importantly, for answers to the newly raised questions about what happened to humanity and how it affects everything moving forward. I know that description is pretty vague, and it's like that for a reason. Explaining any more of the context would quickly lead into spoiler territory, and I don't want to do that for this review. What I will say is that the game has a compelling introduction. It gives you a mystery to solve while giving RT a newfound purpose. As a character, RT is okay. It's amusing to see it trying to figure out basic human concepts and trying to understand what various pieces of man-made equipment are.
It was like this when I found it. Why would a group of humans play these individual instruments together? I question this odd behavior when a single person or machine can synthesize music so effortlessly.
Even though it's a linear game, it does have a dialogue system, which was a nice surprise. It doesn't change the story in any way, but at the very least you're able to respond differently, both in character interactions and dangerous situations. Unfortunately, as far as this area is concerned, this is where my praise ends. While the story is good, it doesn't have a proper conclusion. Instead, it leaves you with a heavily abrupt ending, which continues in a paid sequel. How snazzy. I obviously wouldn't mind this if the ending was more substantial. It quite literally cuts to black and that's it. The story's not that long either. I finished it in just under 4 hours. It's a shame because I liked it up until that point. I was also a bit disappointed with the characters. Like I said before, RT is just okay, nothing special. The other characters are forgettable at best, you don't really learn anything about them, and the only thing that sets them apart is their skill set, which even then is something you don't see much of. Because there wasn't a connection with the characters, I had a hard time caring about the high stakes that the game throws at you. Throughout the duration of The Uncertain's narrative, you are sent to a variety of locations ranging from dilapidated apartment blocks to abandoned facilities and even to various spots in the wilderness. The one thing these places have in common is that they take place in and around what was once a bustling metropolis. There is some world building present in these levels. You can find a number of audio recordings and, like I said before, RT gives its thoughts on numerous points of interest. In general though, it is superficial, and there isn't much that goes beyond the surface of what you see. I don't think we even get a name for the city, though I'm not 100% sure on that. What I will say is that all of the levels are intricately detailed. You don't need a character to tell you that this is a post-apocalyptic world, because you can see that straight away. The interior locations are stuffed with items to interact with, and they all provide a sense of previous occupation. Likewise, the exterior environments are lush and teeming with nature, now that human interference is no longer a prevailing issue. It's safe to say that the atmosphere has been nailed, and putting some of the clunkiness of the gameplay aside, something I'll get into in a bit, I was generally immersed from start to finish. The character models look good as well. Despite my grievances with the character writing, it's still easy to distinguish them from one another, as their appearances are all unique and creatively designed. Animations aren't the best in the world, but they're still serviceable. So overall, I don't have any issues in the visual department, though I do wish there was more work put into providing insight into the world building, since what is there only gives you a small fraction of understanding. At the beginning of the video, I stated that the gameplay follows a similar approach to Telltale games, and while that is still true, the pacing of it is closer to games by Don't Nod, such as Life is Strange and Tell Me Why. It's slow, and there is quite a lot to interact with. The majority of the gameplay loop consists of walking around and investigating, with numerous points of interest not really leading to anything significant at all. This is something that isn't going to work with everyone, just as how some people don't enjoy playing Telltale games. If, however, you are like me and enjoy those types of games and are entertained by that sort of gameplay, then you're going to fit in fine with the uncertain. Beyond the trivial stuff, there are plenty of roadblocks and puzzles that you'll find yourself confronting. These can range from easy to difficult to frustratingly tedious. At the very least, you're not given the same challenge over and over, and there are plenty of variations in the obstacles it throws at you. It's just sometimes it can feel a bit backwards and forwards, but those cases aren't common, and they are far from the main issue that plagues the gameplay. That award goes to the character movement. It's not good. Maybe R2 just has a few screws loose. I'd be willing to accept that if that was the case. Unfortunately, the controls are a bit unresponsive, and while it's far from game-breaking, it's noticeable enough to become irritating, especially in interior environments. The camera moves in multiple fixed locations, so when you enter one room, the camera will change to give you a better angle of the new room. When this happens, however, your character will often just continue moving in the direction they were going regardless of your input. Sometimes you have to mash a few buttons for it to correct itself. I think this problem can be attributed to the camera slightly as well, although most of the positions it's set at are fine. When you expect to move in one direction, but the character decides to go at a slight angle instead, it's more likely than not that it's partly a camera issue messing with the bearings. This also makes interacting with points of interest a problem, as you'll need to be at just the right angle in order to approach it, which can sometimes end up being a wonderfully tormenting activity. Unfortunately, what this means is that the game can end up feeling like a chore to play. However, when it works really well. Like I said before, I enjoyed playing this game. I loved investigating new places and the puzzles kept me engaged. Likewise, there's a couple intense situations that shoot up the pacing, which I also really liked. It's just a shame that the movement feels unpolished. That last section was pretty critical, but those were significant issues that needed raising. Nevertheless, despite its shortcomings, I still recommend the game. It could have done with some tweaking before they went ahead with their sequel, and maybe their next game has more polish. Regardless, I'll definitely be reviewing that next one at some point. The Uncertain carries merit in its intriguing storyline that's coupled with a compelling world and engaging challenges. It's an ambitious project, that much is very clear, and what's been presented so far is very promising. I just wish it had more time during development to iron out some of those very noticeable rough edges in the gameplay, because as it stands, it may be a fun game, but it can become quite tedious to navigate through. Alas, if you like games by Telltale and Don't Nod, and are looking for something similar to that, then I recommend giving this one a go. Likewise, if you're looking for a good story-driven adventure game, consider putting this on your radar. Thanks for watching this review. If you enjoyed this one, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more reviews for indie games, consider checking out my other videos, since that's basically what I do. I'll be branching out soon though, so if you want to stay tuned, then consider subscribing. Until then, I'll see you next time. Bye.